A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away, together with his wife, Michele, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump Derangement Syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. May Rob and Michele rest in peace. That is not a 4chan troll post. That is the former President of the United States reacting to a double homicide. Welcome back to the comment section with Thomas Paul. Tonight we're going to talk about what happens to a country's brain when its leaders talk like this at a murder scene. We're going to walk through what actually happened to Rob and Michele Reiner, what Trump said, how the right and left both reacted, and what Trump Derangement Syndrome even means when the guy screaming it is the one using a homicide as a brand opportunity. Let's start with the part almost nobody on social media actually waited for, the facts. Rob Reiner and his wife Michele were found dead in their home in Brentwood, Los Angeles. Police were called on a Sunday afternoon. Officers found a 78-year-old man and a 68-year-old woman with fatal stab wounds. Detectives very quickly treated it as an apparent double homicide. Within about a day, their son, Nick Reiner, was taken into custody. Jail records show he's in his early 30s, booked on a felony charge, held on multi-million-dollar bail. At the time we're recording this, police have not publicly laid out a full motive. There are reports of a domestic dispute, family tensions, mental health issues, but those are details coming in through outlets and sources, not a signed confession live streamed to Twitch. So when you see people online confidently announcing it was definitely because of X, what they really mean is, I saw a tweet, and now I'm building my own personal Law and Order episode in my head. We're not doing that here. We're not solving the case. We're just establishing the boring, unviral context. 2 people were murdered in their home. Their son is a primary focus of the investigation, and the police have not said this was political. And here's where things get interesting. Into that very incomplete picture strolls the President of the United States like, wow, what a great chance to talk about me. Let's go back to that Truth Social post and walk through it line by line because the wording is doing a ton of work. It starts, a very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star. So we're 2 clauses in, and we've already negged the dead guy. Once very talented is doing exactly what you think it's doing. This isn't really a condolence, it's a performance review. Then, has passed away together with his wife Michele, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump Derangement Syndrome. So now the president has decided with absolutely no evidence that Reiner's murder was basically fan service for Trump. The killer is allegedly the son, in what looks like a horrific family tragedy, and Trump rewrites the whole thing into, he died because he was too obsessed with me. This is the rhetorical move. Take any event in the world, no matter how brutal or personal, and turn it into proof of your own centrality. He keeps going. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us. This is where it basically becomes a campaign ad. In the middle of a double homicide, he plugs his golden age of America. He diagnoses a fake mental illness in his critic, implies that his critic provoked his own death, and then brags about how awesome his administration is. The only thing missing is a promo code at the end. And then, just to keep it classy, he closes with, May Rob and Michele rest in peace, like putting a smiley face sticker on a car crash. That's the pattern. He didn't just mention Trump Derangement Syndrome, he used it to blame the victim's politics for his own murder. It's not, even though we disagreed, this is tragic. It's, he was sick with anti-Trump hatred. He drove people insane, and that's why he's dead. And remember, even some people who are not card-carrying liberals looked at this and said, this is psychotic. You had conservative-leaning commentators, libertarian types, Republican members of Congress, all saying some version of, this is ghoulish, this is not what a president should say. But wait, it gets even wilder, because the Post didn't live in a vacuum. It dropped into an ecosystem that has been marinating in TDS memes for years. On the MAGA right, a lot of influencers immediately did exactly what he wanted. They amplified the TDS killed him angle. You saw posts like, "See, folks, Trump derangement syndrome is real. Get help before it's too late." People turning a homicide into a little morality play about why you shouldn't criticize dear leader too hard. Others took the calm down snowflakes route. The left is melting down because Trump told the truth. He's just pointing out the insanity. Libs, relax. It's the same move we've seen for years. If Trump is cruel, the story becomes how funny it is that you're offended. Now compare that to how a lot of these same voices react when they think liberals are glorifying violence. Remember when there was outrage over a comedian holding a fake bloody Trump head? Or a random nobody on X saying something gross after a conservative was attacked? The line was, "This is a sick culture. The left is cheering violence. They're monsters." In those moments, everything is solemn. Every victim is a martyr. You are required to speak in hushed tones and bow before the altar of civility. But when it's a liberal director who spent years criticizing Trump, suddenly a double stabbing is a punchline, a teachable moment about the dangers of hating President content machine. So the standard keeps shifting. When someone on our team is hurt, you better not make a joke. You better not speculate. You better wear a black tie on TV. When it's someone the tribe hates, cruelty is just owning the libs. And before anyone gets too smug, the left does its own version of this. Let's look at the anti-Trump reaction to this post. You had Democrats, liberal influencers, resistance-branded accounts all over it within minutes. Screenshots, quote tweets. This is the most depraved thing I've ever seen from a president. Some of that anger is absolutely understandable. You don't have to be a fan of Rob Reiner's Twitter feed to think mocking his murder is depraved. There were some strong responses that kept the focus where it belongs, on the fact that 2 people were murdered, on the family blindsided by this, and on the simple idea that there is a basic human flaw you should not crash through even if you're a reality TV president. But there was also a lot of content. People using the blood still on the ground as a backdrop for, "Look how monstrous he is, here's my Patreon." Threads that spent 1 sentence on Rob and Michele and 20 on, "Here's how we turn this into Trump is literally a serial killer engagement." And here's the uncomfortable part. Trump thrives on exactly that outrage. Every quote tweet with, "Can you believe this?" is still an extra set of eyeballs on his message. He doesn't care if you're horrified. He just cares that the camera is pointed in his direction. At one point, you had people on the left responding with some version of "F Donald Trump and everyone who ever clutched their pearls about the left glorifying violence," which, emotionally, I get. But you can feel how all of this becomes the same machine. He posts something morally radioactive, both sides rush in to either defend it or monetize their disgust, and the actual dead people become set dressing. Is anyone in that cycle de-escalating? Is anyone saying, "You know what? The right thing here is actually to shut up for 24 hours and let the family breathe"? Or have we all quietly agreed that every tragedy is raw material? This is where Trump derangement syndrome comes in, and we need to talk about what that phrase actually does. Originally, TDS was a way for pro-Trump people to mock critics. You're so irrational about this guy that you've lost your mind. It lumped together every reaction from, "I don't like his tax policy," to "he tried to overturn an election," into one melting pot of supposed hysteria. Over time, it turned into a catch-all shield. Any criticism? Oh, that's just TDS. Point out something factually true, like, "This post mocks a murdered man." TDS. Wonder if it's appropriate for a president to brag during an obituary. TDS. The irony is that Trump's post about Rob Reiner reads like a parody of the thing he accuses others of. He is so fixated on his enemies, so unwilling to imagine a world that isn't about him, that he literally can't treat a double homicide as anything other than a chance to push his golden age brand. That's not a sign of strength. That's moral rot. You even had conservative-leaning critics, people who voted Republican their whole lives, saying, "This isn't alpha male strong. It's the emotional maturity of a teenager who laughs at funerals because attention makes the discomfort go away." If anyone in this story is deranged by Trump, it's the guy writing a campaign slogan in the middle of a murder announcement. Now, while all of this was bouncing around social media in all caps, mainstream outlets had to figure out how to frame it. On cable news, you got words like incendiary, mocking, extraordinary attack. They'd show the full quote, maybe a few reaction clips, then pivot right into the usual thing. Will this hurt him with suburban voters? What does this mean for 2026? because nothing says national moral crisis like an instant horse race segment. Some outlets did a better job of laying out the sequence. Here's the homicide. Here's what the police have confirmed. Here's what the president said. Here's the bipartisan criticism. Others flattened the whole thing into both sides angry after Trump comment, like it's just another spicy take. Wire services and straight news write-ups were more factual. Double homicide, son in custody, president's quote, reactions. But even then, it's hard to capture how online ecosystems prime something like this. If you've spent 8 years telling people that critics have a mind-crippling disease, that politics is a blood sport, that empathy is weakness, this kind of response at a murder scene isn't some shocking break. It's the logical next episode. And here's where I want to pivot from Trump is bad, which, yes, obviously to the bigger question. What do we actually expect from leaders when Americans are murdered? Like, be honest with yourself. Are you okay normalizing this? Are you okay with presidents dunking on murdered citizens because they were on the wrong team? Is that just funny now? Is that just owning the libs or owning the MAGAs, depending on your side? Because every politician watching this is doing math. They're seeing that cruelty gets coverage. That the most viral statement after a double homicide was not from the police, not from the family, but from a president using the phrase mind-crippling disease about a guy who was just found stabbed to death. And they're learning. If you want to dominate a news cycle, be more shameless than the last guy. A lot of you watching have been furious, rightly, when you saw anyone, even randos with 400 followers, being flippant about violence against conservatives. I've seen it in this channel's comment section. When someone on the left crossed a line, you said, "No, that's too far. We don't celebrate this stuff." So now I'm asking you to apply that same standard here. You can absolutely despise Rob Reiner's politics. You can think his movies are overrated, his tweets were obnoxious, his commentary was unhinged. All of that can be true. And still, mocking his murder and blaming his politics for his death is a moral faceplant for anyone, let alone a president. If your brain is spinning up an excuse right now, well, he said nasty things first. He would have done the same. That's the tribal wiring kicking in. That's the part of you that would be horrified if the jerseys were reversed, suddenly inventing reasons why it's different this time. So let's zoom out and land this. Here's what we know. Rob and Michele Reiner were found stabbed to death in their home. Police are treating it as a homicide. Their son Nick has been arrested on a serious felony charge and is being held on very high bail, though investigators have been cautious about laying out the full story publicly. This looks, as best as we can tell right now, like a horrific family tragedy, not a political assassination. Within hours, the President of the United States posted a statement saying Reiner died due to the anger he caused others through Trump Derangement Syndrome, calling him tortured and struggling, and essentially turning the killing into a cautionary tale about hating Trump while bragging about a supposed golden age of America. That statement triggered an immediate split screen. MAGA influencers cheering, joking, or shrugging it off. Some conservatives breaking ranks to call it indecent. Liberals and anti-Trump voices furious, with a mix of genuinely moral outrage and very online content farming, and mainstream media trying to package it into neat segments that fit between ads. Why does it matter? Because this is not just about one post or one murdered celebrity. It's about what we're teaching ourselves to accept from people in power heading into another election cycle and beyond. If this doesn't move the needle for some people, what would? Is there any line that would make you say, you know what? Even if I like his judges or his tax cuts or his memes, I'm out. Or are we in a politics now where the only real sin is losing? I genuinely want to know where you land on this because this is where the rubber meets the road on values versus team. So hit the comments and tell me, do you think there's any red line of basic decency that should apply to presidents no matter your party? And if this isn't it, what would be? If you got something out of this and you want more media criticism, hypocrisy callouts, and dark humor about American politics, hit subscribe, tap the like button so more people see it, and share this with the one friend who insists both sides are just as bad, but somehow only ever notices one of them. This is the comment section with Thomas Paul. Thanks for watching. And remember, behind all the outrage content and tribal hot takes, there are still two people who were murdered and a family that has to live with all of us talking about it.